Welcome to Season 2 of the Generational Dental Wealth Show. Season 2 is all about increasing dental financial IQ. We do record these live in studio at Team Studios, so if you want to see the video format of this show, go ahead to Spotify or YouTube. Also, if you want to join the Generational Dental Wealth community, go ahead to teamfinancials.com/educate. Let's hop into it.
Before we hop into today's episode, we wanted to share that this is not legal or financial advice. The thoughts that we share here are our own, and these are for educational purposes only. Kingsley is my CPA. He gives me financial advice. Please seek or solicit the help of your team and your financial advisors for your financial future.
Hello. Welcome back to the Generational Dental Wealth Show. My name is Dr. Jermaine Fetty.
My name is Kingsley Fetty, CPA.
Man. It's been a fun season.
It's been really fun.
Season 2, man.
Season 2.
Action-packed. So many different perspectives. We had students on. We had doctors on. We were speaking at national conferences.
Yeah.
We got to speak to one of our favorite podcasts, Truth Be Told, man.
Shout out them.
Oh, yeah, for sure, man. This was a fun one, man. But, before we hop into the recap episode, Kingsley, what kind of updates you got, man? Tell us what's going on with you personally.
Yeah, man. So since the last time we sat here, man, we went to the NDA conference in Las Vegas. That was a blast. Was able to speak to how many people were there? How many dentists were there,
there was at least 300 to 400 dentists there.
Yeah.
And possibly the same amount of dental students, 300 to 400 dental students.
Yeah, it was a blast
from all across the nation, man. It was honestly a very, very impressive turnout. Shout out to the NDA doing an amazing job. Dr. Horton, the entire leadership team for really bringing together the best and the brightest across dentistry, man.
For sure, man. That was a blast, man. Getting on that stage, being able to talk just what I love most, and that's tax. And obviously, shout out you, man, and being able to accept the 40 Under 40 award, being able to wear the native attire and represent Charlotte well, represent Nigeria well, man. So shout out to you, man.
Man, I think you did a fantastic job. I think you gave a lot of action-packed information. Again, we've spoken at multiple conferences before. This is probably one of the bigger ones, probably top 3 bigger ones for sure. So I'm just seeing you be able to give such action-packed information and such relatable that people can go back and implement this the next day. And that's what I'm all about. Give me implementable information. So I think you did a great job on that, man.
For sure.
As far as 40 Under 40, to God be the glory. I appreciate it, man. It's always an honor to be honored by your peers, So,
for sure.
Shout out to Dr. Octavia for nominating me for the award. And you already know we're going to wear our attire everywhere we go. Same thing I implore everybody. Take you wherever you go. Just because you step in a different room doesn't mean you got to wear a different version of yourself, right? I'm going to wear my Nigerian traditional attire if I'm getting married, if I'm going to the bank to close on a transaction, if I'm receiving an award, if I'm just going to dinner. You know what I mean? So, because to us, that's a suit. That's formal wear to us. So if I'm going to wear formal wear, honestly, I haven't wore a traditional suit since we had our American weddings. That was 2-3 years ago. So I don't think I'm wearing another suit unless God say otherwise, man. But let's hop into it, man. Let's do it, man. Let's hop into the first episode of the season.
Yeah. So what we wanted to do before we hop into it, we wanted just to break down what was our pretty much top 10 takeaways of the season. And it's so much value that's out there. Please go back and watch it if you haven't. Sure. Go ahead and stop this episode. Go back and watch every single episode, man. You'd be glad that you did. But we wanted to take just the top 10. Obviously, there's so many out there that we could have chose. These are just the ones that stuck out to us. So we'll be just touching on it episode by episode to just see, what value we can kind of dig back up and kind of discuss today, man. How does that sound?
That sounds really good, man.
So what we wanted to do to kind of bring it all together was we wanted to use this episode as kind of a recap episode of season 2. So we just kind of sat down and we just thought about our top 10 takeaways. Just to give you something practical, kind of a quick reference guide. But if you have not listened to the entire season, go ahead and press pause and rewind and watch every episode, and you'll be glad that you did. So we'll be hopping into, like I said, the top 10 takeaways, and we know that you'll get so much value from this here.
For sure. Let's do it.
Awesome. So first episode 16, what we wanted to do for the first episode of season 2 was just talk about the myth of how much do dentists actually make. Moving on from there, we hopped into episode 17, building financial IQ, pretty much navigating the journey to generational dental wealth, right?
Let me hop into that one, man.
Yeah.
When it comes, number one, on the first episode, again, when it comes to dental income, understand there's 2 main things that if you just don't fully grasp, building generational dental wealth is going to be tough. If you don't grasp your income, and most importantly about your income, learn how to use your income as a building tool. If you don't understand that, then a lot of the stuff that we say is not really going to make sense.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, you have to look at your income as, or your job or your practice as the number one partner in your success, the number one partner in the tools that's going to help you build your financial future. So then as we hop into the second episode, when it comes to the myths, right, and building your financial IQ, that was important to me because number one thing that I see especially when it comes, not even just dentists or doctors, period, I think just in general for everybody, right, that I've come across that we talk finances, is a lot of us do the right thing the wrong way.
Okay.
And if you do the right things the wrong way, what's going to happen is you're going to feel as if you're making progress, but the reality around you is not going to match the way you feel. You're going to feel like, okay, they told me to save up an emergency fund. Okay, yep. I put my 3 to 6 months away, right? But if an emergency happens, are you actually ready to do something about it? So that's the same way when we had the guest who mailed in asking about the emergency fund. We talked about step number one, get $1,000 cash that you keep close, like cash, not on a card anywhere. Because we remember just earlier this year, AT&T crashed. People couldn't even make calls. Yep. So at least keep $1,000 on your cash so you can rectify any type of situation you need to in case Visa or MasterCard go down, right?
Sure.
Then from there, 3 to 6 months, don't just keep it in a mattress underneath your bed, right? Or don't keep it into a checkings or a savings account. Put it into a high yield interest savings account so you can get that 5% interest. Let's say if 3 to 6 months of your expenses is $100,000. Just by you putting it into the right account, right? That $100,000 is going to make you $5,000 because high yield savings accounts are getting 5% right now. Imagine what you can do with $5,000 extra dollars just by making the right decisions, right? So again, we got to move past just making the right decision, but we got to make the right decision and then we have to do it the right way. Because when it comes to finances, there's no participation trophies. You either do the right thing the right way, or you just deal with the consequences. But I know all of our listeners out there they're passionate about growing when it comes to finances and taxes and everything around that. So all I implore you is do the right thing the right way, and you're going to succeed.
For sure, man. I appreciate it for that first takeaway. So episode 18 looks like, does your dental journey have to follow the norm? Obviously speaking with Dr. Octavia Miller, our first guest on the show for that season. So episode 19 is where I wanted to stop a little bit, and I'll give the title, How to Build Your Dental Brand with Dr. Octavia Miller. She did a fantastic job with so many things, bringing to the table and just explaining from her perspective in dentistry. And one of my biggest takeaways was her talking about building her personal brand. And the reason I see that as such a big takeaway is because obviously we live in a digital age, right? Where at the end of the day, you have to be marketable. Everybody you hear about NIL for college athletes and athletes, but everybody's NIL. Everybody has a name, image, and likeness. And whether you're an associate or a dental practice owner, you have to be marketable, right? Your skill set is super important, and that's your breadwinner. But who you are as a person, your personality, do people get along with you, is super important. What I love about what you talked about the episode was how she posts reels and how she posts on social media to just build a sentiment with the community and with even aspiring dentists. I think so many times we can get so caught up in the hustle and bustle of the industry that we forget that, hey, like, we want to be a great representation of the industry so that people can see it in a positive light. So I really love when Dr. O was just talking about building her personal brand there.
For sure. Yep. One of the biggest things that I got from that episode, man, was just like, don't sit around waiting for help. Right.
Yeah.
Do everything you need to do on your side. And then when help comes, welcome it. But at the same time, right, like, understand hard workers respect hard workers. So it's easy for you to help somebody who is moving, right? We gave the example that if somebody's broke down on the side of the highway and they have a car, they can sit in the car and hope that somebody comes to come save them. Or they can get out the car and start pushing it. You know what I mean? If it's in a safe environment, you can start pushing. And somebody who drives by and sees somebody pushing a car is going to be more likely to pull aside to help them than just somebody who's just waving a white flag on the side of the street, stop by, right?
For sure.
Because when somebody is in motion, it's easy to push them to a higher level versus somebody you're going to have to start from like step one, right?
Yep.
So it's the same thing, even with all of us, like regardless of where you are, that you want to make sure that you want to make yourself accessible for help. Because when you're in motion, people, it's easier for them to resonate with what you do, to identify what they do for you. And for me personally, I've noticed that some of my greatest mentors have come along the times that I have been moving forward, right? Like
Yep.
even throughout the process of starting to practice, that's when I really started bonding and becoming closer with a lot of my mentors, because a lot of the struggles and a lot of challenges that I was going through is a lot of challenges that they previously went through. Therefore, when you have similar pain points, y'all can bond on a different level. So all I implore everybody out here is that you want to make sure that your hard work speaks for itself, okay? And that if you receive help, perfect, but we're never dependent on that.
Awesome, man. So speaking about Dr. Octavia Miller, we had a great episode with Dr. Jabri Muhammad. In episode 23, it looked like we talked about building success in dentistry from the ground up, and we had that conversation with Dr. Jabri.
Man, it was an honor talking to Dr. Jabri. That's my guy. Just seeing him being his teacher, and now seeing him be a full-fledged dentist now is an amazing thing to see. I was honored to be able to interview him. We're actually gonna be together. We saw each other when we was in Vegas, and now we're going to be all together and down in Atlanta for Earn Your Leisure. So that's going to be a great time. So now the beautiful thing about it is when we talked about him, he was still in dental school. So we was able to touch on contract negotiations. So when it comes to contract negotiations, my biggest piece of advice was have a 3-part person team. And this is not including your lawyer, but as far as doctors go, you want number one, you want somebody who's been out 5 years or less. This individual has recently negotiated a contract. This one knows what the current landscape of the market is demanding. This person could probably give you more actionable current day information, right? What's going on in your region, your timing right now. Then you want to talk to somebody who has been out of dental school 5 years or more. This person's probably negotiated a few contracts. This person's probably seen a lot of contracts. This person's still probably settling into their lives and trying to figure out what kind of dentistry they want to practice, what kind of setting they want to practice.
Yeah.
So as they're consistently going through, the figuring out what's going to be coming next, now they can share that peace of mind with you, right? Then last but not least is I want to find somebody I want to find a dental practice owner with as much gray hair as possible. This person's probably handed out a contract or a few contracts to a few different people. So now they can tell you like what's fair. Is what I'm expecting fair? Is what I'm asking for fair? And more importantly, do you have any colleagues who are looking for an associate? Are you working with anybody who possibly needs my services? So being able to have somebody who's just got out, somebody who's been out for some time, and be able to have some practice owners in your corner will really, really set you up good when it comes to contract negotiation time.
Man, perfect, man. Shout out Dr. Jabri, man.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome. So we're going to skip forward a little bit. Wanted to hop into episode 28. We talked about From Dreams to Dental School with Dr. Shay Katamus.
Yes, sir.
Shout out to you, man. I follow your social media, man. You've been doing a lot of great things. But the biggest stand up. Oh yeah. Shout out Nigel. The biggest takeaway I got from that episode was how Dr. Shay embraced career change. He went into dental school a bit on an older spectrum, came from going to, he wanted to be a physical therapist, then switched over to dental. So to me, it just showed like at the end of the day, it's never too late to learn a new skill. It's never too late to invest in yourself. And even if it's not a dramatic career change, it's okay to live outside of the expectation that you might see as normal. For sure. And he took that on the chin and he ran with it. Yeah. And he just gave so much perspective on what it looks like to walk through a challenge, face it head on, and come out of the other side victorious, man. So a lot of good takeaways there, man.
For sure. Yeah, man. So shout out to Dr. Shay Katamus, fellow Nigerian, as well as fellow Charlottean. Or at least the outskirts of Charlotte. Shout out to you, man. Expecting great things from you. Then we hop straight into our Truth Be Told joint podcast interview.
Shout out to Be Told.
That was fun. Shout out to Dr. Horton and Dr. Aka. They're doing amazing things. So the conversation that I personally had with them, it was really touching on practice ownership. And really understanding that private practice ownership is not just monochromatic. There's a lot of different shades when it comes to private practice ownership. You don't just have to have a building, right? Dr. Horton and previously, he used to be just like me. We used to be travel dentists, go to different offices, do the surgical component of a lot of different surgeries for offices who were not necessarily surgically inclined. So being able to hear that, sometimes when you're going through something, you feel like you're the only person who has been there. But it was good being able to see that, okay, so he's been there, done that as well, right? And that I wasn't off base with that mindset, with that decision. So, because I really enjoyed my time being a travel dentist. It was a fun run. We saw some great places. I worked in North and South Carolina, duly licensed. So I got to see a lot of different cities. In total, probably worked in about 90 plus different cities. So I'm gonna be able to talk to him on that and be able to look at the fact that, you know, if you decide that you want to settle down and start a private practice, right, an actual physical brick and mortar, then that's a good option. But in dentistry, that's not the only option to ownership, right? You could do that, or you could be a 1099 travel dentist. That's another way, because you can still open up your own entity and own your practice, even if it's not necessarily brick and mortar.
Yep.
Then on top of that, you could be a partner in a practice, right? On top of that, you could work at just 2 or 3 different offices and be 1099 at those offices. So there's travel dentistry, there's 1099, there's physical brick and mortar. There's so many different ways where you can still own a practice in dentistry without having to be a physical brick and mortar private practice owner.
That's good, man. That's good. And I have quite a few clients that do a mix, man, where they're on the road some days, they're in practice some days. So beautifully said, man. So we're going to hop into episode 32. We talked about tax preparation versus tax strategy. You know, me as a CPA, I get this question so much. I think many people are used to having a tax preparer, someone that they meet with once a year. They give them their W-2s or 1099s, and they say, hey, this is how much I made. And they make you sit in the lobby for 45 minutes and they just crunch some numbers. That's cool and dandy. Or you might do it yourself on some DIY service. That's cool and dandy, right? That's keeping you out of trouble. But tax strategy is a different approach. That's saying, hey, before the year is even over, how can we put things into place today to save you money, right? Tax strategy actually puts money back into your pocket, because during tax season, your CPA doesn't have time to sit down and go through all the tax strategies for you. They're trying to get through, right, the busy season of the grind and getting people in and out, right? So we just talked about the difference, compare and contrast on what you need out of a tax strategist.
So I like to think about it like this. Like when I think of a tax preparer, I like to think of like a hygienist. That person's coming in, they're coming to do maintenance, and that's it, right? And I like to think of like our tax strategists, like our dentists. They're the ones who are comprehensively coming in, giving you a plan. This is where we're starting. This is where we're going to end, right? Yeah. So you got to understand, like there has to be different professionals for different levels, right? For most people, you might not need a tax strategist, right? But once you start clicking into higher 6 figures, like you start to really start cracking into the 200s, you start to be the higher 100s, and anything beyond that, you're going to need somebody in your corner to really start helping you put this plan together. Because it really got real when you sit down and you get a 6-figure tax bill and you never made that as an associate, but you're getting paid, have to pay that now in taxes. It's just like, yo, you need professional help to get this into a good situation, right? So you just understand, like, as you rise in your career, as you continue to increase your take home, it's important that you get the proper professionals in your corner to make sure they can take you to the next level.
Awesome. So the next episode, we're going to hop into a little bit of travel we did, like we talked about earlier, traveling all the way to Las Vegas, Nevada, to the NDA conference, man. So this episode, we talked about how to tax plan as a dentist, and that's episode 33. My biggest takeaway, I won't even touch on taxes for this takeaway. We went over what we believe in when we sat down and developed the kind of those stages to generational dental wealth. Yep. And that's rich life discovery, tax strategy, extreme ownership, asset accumulation, and legacy. Yeah. And I just loved when we started there, kind of just giving people a roadmap. Because at the end of the day, right, it's like getting in a vehicle knowing you want to get somewhere, but you don't have the clear directions on which turns to make. I mean, which stages you need to stop at, and then where's the gas stations along the route, you know? So I don't know. It really helped communicate exactly what we've been trying to say throughout these seasons here.
That tied in perfectly, even with my earlier point of doing the right things the right way. So when I think about asset accumulation, you got to understand, like, we have income, but our income has to be converted into a vehicle in which it can actually take us places, right?
Yes.
So the reason asset accumulation is so important in our process is because you want to make sure that your income, even on an annual basis, has something, right? It creates a baby to be able to produce more income for you in the future, right? If your income is just turning into things but not able to turn into more income, it's going to be hard for you to build generational dental wealth. You're going to be continually toiling where you got to keep replacing, versus instead, like a farmer, they're planting seeds, and those seeds are now creating fruits, and those fruits have seeds, and they're going to create,
There
and
you
that's
go.
going to be a continuous cyclical cycle versus us going to, let's say, a fast food restaurant, buying one meal, eating it, and it's done.
Yeah.
So that asset accumulation, doing things the right way, is like that farmer's mentality where it's like, I'm going to take the seeds that I have right now, which might not be that much, but I'm going to sow them in hopes that it's going to build something bigger that can continue on even after me.
Man, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Any other takeaways or anything you like to add to our conversation, wrapping up season 2, putting it on a bow?
Man, I would say, honestly, my biggest takeaway from this season happened in Vegas, episode 34 and 35, when you spoke to the entire NDA. For me personally, again, working with you on a weekly basis and us going through the taxes is no strategy that was named I haven't heard of. And technically, that's the entire point of the Dental Wealth Group, is for people to not be taken aback when they hear strategies. You should have heard a little bit about everything, right?
Yeah.
So then by the time you're in a new room, you feel very confident when you're hearing strategies, and you're just learning more about them, right? You're increasing your capacity when it comes to that strategy. But what I will say is the biggest takeaway I had from that experience was just being around other high income earners, rubbing shoulders with them and figuring out what's your process when you're trying to make sure that you're building generational dental wealth, to make sure that you're mitigating your taxes in a legal way, to make sure that you're paying what's only required from you and nothing more.
Oh, yeah.
How do you go about accumulating assets? How are you building your practice? How are you supporting your associates? How are you dealing with your family life? Like, so you understand, like, when you're around, and it's like we talked about earlier, you want to have high level people on your team. When we're rubbing shoulders with them, it's a very good concept for me when I'm around other dentists who either have been where I am or where I'm going next, right? So I'm seeing in real day when they're telling me about, okay, I need to buy this apartment complex because I need to get this thing written off because my tax bill is $300,000, right?
Yep.
I'm sitting here talking to people who, okay, our practice is kicking out $3 million a year, and we need to figure out a way to mitigate. And the ABC Google strategies are not going to be good enough to deal with what we got to deal with, right? So I'm learning about their tax strategist, right? I'm trying to figure out who you guys working with, because as you continue to climb, right, like, you're going to have less and less people who have the same pain points as you. So you got to find new circles of people to be around. And that's why I'm excited for the next season as we continue to grow this out. We're coming into contact with so many high earners, with so many people who are driven to extend their clinical suite of skills, to just extend their current career within dentistry, that now we're going to have to put more people together in common like situations. So now we can all rub shoulders to figure out how can we deal with these same financial, tax, asset accumulation challenge that we all have, as we're all on our roadmap to our generational dental wealth life. And ultimately, how do we live our rich life? So I appreciate you for putting that conversation together and putting me in a room with so many high earners and so many people who are driven within dentistry. Because again, like, just like the USA Olympic basketball team, when you put the best of the best on the same team, you win gold.
You win gold. You win gold, man. And that's the goal. So we have to come to a close here for season 2. It's been fun.
It's been fun, man.
All right. Go ahead and check us out here at the Generational Dental Wealth Show. See you soon.
We'll see y'all soon. Peace.
All right.